Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everyone, we are from the 8th group. We would like to present our PowerPoint about validity and reliability in quantitative research. Our members consist of me and my friend Yudha and then Arsyada. For the table of contents, there are validity and reliability. For the validity, it it, it consists of it consists of validity in quantitative research, instrument validity, validity evidences, application of validity in language learning setting, and the last one is internal validity and external validity. And for the reliability, it includes sources of random concept, relationship between validity and reliability, and then reliability coefficient and its interpretation as well as approaches in reliability. For the first one, we would like to explain about validity. Specifically, validity in quantitative research. What does it mean by validity in quantitative research? Validity in quantitative research is about rightness, accurateness, and correctness of assessment result. Research result, which has convincing and strong validity evidences, will be able to contribute theories validation, which is in line with the purpose of quantitative research, which is validating theories. In this case, the assessment is conducted in language learning setting. And then there are some definition about validity from some sources, such as the first one is, in educational measurement, validity is often defined as the degree to which a measuring actually serves the purposes for what it is intended to measure. So a test should be the test should be measure what it is meant to be measured. And then validity is the extent to which a test measure what it claims to measure. And the last one is validity to measure the test, which the test has the function to measure, and it is the main purpose and nothing else. And about instrument validity. Can an instrument be 100% valid? The validity of instrument is dependent on the main goal of its usage itself, of the instrument usage itself. And then about validity evidences. What are the kinds of validity evidences that can be predicted in research data? It is divided into 2 points. The first one is from the use of assessment instrument or test, and the second one is from the use of related data or empirical data, which is about criterion related. The first one is about assessment instrument. It consists of two, which is construct and content. For the construct, it is about the match between the task that needs requiring by students' performance and the purpose of it. So the task should match with its purpose. And then for the content, it's about task sample's ability to coverage the overall domain of the intended skill, where the intended skill requires students' performance. And for the criterion related, it divide into two, which is concurrent and predictive. The concurrent one is about the ability of a task to measure student proficiency in terms of its correlation with other tasks. So for example, English task about writing in one place should be able to measure students' ability and its ability should be the same with another task, and the result from the task should show that students have the same ability when they do the other task. And then about predictive validity is about the task ability in predicting students' proficiency prior before some certain point of time. It's like the test for entering university. The test will predict about students' ability in the future, whether students will require proficiency that is that the university wants students to have in the future. And then about application of validity in language learning setting. It is about knowing the way how to check whether the data from quantitative research are valid or not by using SPSS. For this example, we imagine that the data were gained from questionnaires about 20 students per questionnaires, which includes 20 which require 20 students to complete the task. The task is about students' perception in the implementation of distance learning towards their speaking skill. There are 10 items, there are 10 questions, which can be answered in 5 different answers. It use 1 to 5 Likert scale. For 1 is very bad, 2 bad, 3 enough, 4 often, and 5 is very often. Our task here is to measure whether the questionnaire is valid or not. We use the 5% significance level. So the R table is 4.0.4 because the amount of student, because the number of student is there are 20 students. Because of that, by using Pearson correlation, student total score should be more than 0.4 to prove whether the questionnaires, whether the questions are valid or not. Yeah, this is the step. The first one, it is when the data is from the Excel, we use Excel because it needs we have to sum all of the students answers, like for 2 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2, and the result is 26. Because of that, we use Excel. And then after we have sum all of it, we replace it, we relocate it to SPSS. Yeah, and here the data view, and this the variable view, and the decimal is 0 because we want the number to look without some points. And yeah, and then we have to click some tools. The first one is analyze, then correlate, and then bivariate. Then we have to include all of the items and place it on variable. Then we have to choose Pearson because of Pearson correlation, and then to tailed because we want to know the correlation between the data. And then yeah, we place it to the variable, and here is the result. It shows that 1 2 3 4 5, there are 5 questions which is valid, and the other questions are not, because only these 5 questions in accordance to its score, to its total score, it's more than 0.4. Yeah, the third, fifth, sixth, seventh, and 10th questions are reliable, I mean valid, not reliable. are valid. And yeah, the next one I will explain about internal and external validity. What does it mean by internal and external validity? Internal validity involves around the truth in study which gain from the result of the study. It includes or involves around the sample of the study which represents its population. However, errors in internal validity can be caused by measurement error or the wrong step while selecting the sample. For example, the fault that is done by researchers when they randomize their sample. Yeah, and then those the judgment which is made based on the internal validity will be judged in accordance to its external validity. Because of that, we can conclude that external validity is about validity which come from real life situation. It involves around the extent of the result from the study. Whether the result of the study is general enough or general or whether it can represent its population from the sample that it used, specifically when it is implemented in daily practice, whether the same population which is represented by the sample of the study. It also investigates the inclusion and exclusion of the participants' criteria and characteristic of the study. And yeah, for the next material will be explained by my friends. Arsyada, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Next, I would like to continue. The presentation is about reliability. Okay, for the first, I would like to tell about the source of random error. Well, random error is a change difference between the observed and true values of something. A researcher misreading a weighing scale records an incorrect measurement. Next. Random error affects your measurements in unpredictable ways. Your measurements are equally likely to be higher or lower than the true values. Next slide. Okay, in the graph below, the black line represents a perfect match between the true scores and observed scores of a scale. In an ideal world, all of your data would fall on exactly the line. Next slide. Then the green dots represents the actual observed scores for each measurement with random error added. Random error is referred to as noisy because it blurs the true value or the signal of what's being measured. Keeping random error low helps you collect precise data. Next slide. Okay, the sources of random error includes one is natural variations in real world or experimental context. Second is imprecise or unreliable measurement instrument. Third, individual difference between participants or units. And the last is poorly controlled experimental procedures. Okay. For the example of the first source of random error, that is natural variations in context, the example is in an experiment about memory capacity, your participants are scheduled for a memory test at different time of day. However, some participants tend to perform better in the morning while others perform better later in the day. So your measurements do not reflect the true extent of memory capacity for each individual. Example for the second source of random error is example for next slide. impressive instrument. The example is you measure with circumference using a tape measure, but your tape measure is only accurate to the nearest half centimeter, so you round each measurement up or down when you record data. Next slide. The next example is from the sort of random error is individual difference. The example is you ask participants to administer a safe electric shock to themselves and rate their pain level on a 7-point rating scale. Because pain is subjective, it's hard to reliably measure. Some participants overstate their levels of pain, while others understate their levels of pain. Next slide. Okay, then I would like to tell about the relationships between reliability and validity. Well, the relationship between reliability and validity can be assessed in various ways. For a measurement to be valid, it has to be reliable, while validity is associated with accuracy. Reliability is all about consistency. Therefore, an unreliable measurement cannot be valid. However, a measurement can be reliable without being valid. It is often required for measurements to be both valid and reliable. The process of assessing psychological traits is called psychological measurement. Next slide. In psychological measurements, reliability is used to determine the consistency of measurements and results. For example, when using test rates reliability, an intelligent individual by certain metrics is expected to exhibit intelligence at all times. Validity measures the agreement of test results with that which the test is intended to measure. For instance, somebody can decide to use the age of individuals as a measurement for confidence. Next slide. The test might have several consistency results, making it reliable. But that doesn't mean it is valid. Confidence has nothing psychological test high validity and is effective and efficient. Therefore, the research suggests evaluating coefficients, the expected values for reliability and validity should be 0,6 or greater. Next slide. Okay, the next slide will be explained by my friend Yudha.
Okay, thank you. I want to continue about the presentation about reliability coefficient. So what is reliability coefficient? The degree to which a test is consistent or reliable can be estimated by calculating a reliability coefficient. Reliability coefficients, or estimates as they are so called, can be interpreted as the percent of systematic or consistent or reliable variance in the score on a test. Usually, language testers use three basic strategies to estimate the reliability of most tests: the test, equivalent forms, and internal consistency strategies. The first reliability coefficient is test-retest reliability. Of the three basic reliability strategies, test-retest reliability is the one most appropriate for estimating the stability of a test over time. The first step in the strategy is to administer whatever test is involved two times to a group of students. The testing sessions should be far enough apart so that students are not likely to remember the items on the test, yet close enough together so that the students have not changed in any fundamental way, like learning more language. Once the tests are administered twice and the pairs of scores for each student are lined up into columns, simply calculate a person product moment correlation coefficient between the two sets of scores. The correlation coefficient will provide a conservative estimate, that is a low estimate or underestimate of the reliability of the test over time. This reliability estimate can then be interpreted as the percent of reliable variance on the test. Then the second is equivalent form reliability. Equivalent forms reliability, sometimes called parallel forms reliability, is similar to test-retest reliability. However, instead of administering the same test twice, the tester administers two different but equivalent tests. For example, forms A and B to a single group of students. Then the tester calculates a correlation coefficient between the two sets of scores, and that indicates the degree of relationship between the scores on the two forms. And the third is internal consistency reliability. To avoid the work and complexity involved in the test-retest or equivalent form strategies, testers most often use internal consistency strategies to estimate internal consistency reliability. As the name implies, internal consistency strategies have the advantage of estimating the reliability of a test with only one form and only one administration of the form. Okay, the next is reliability approaches. The first, threshold loss agreement approaches. As shown in Brown, 1990, two of the threshold loss agreement statistics that are prominent in the literature are also straightforward enough mathematically to be calculated in most language teaching situations. These two statistics are the agreement coefficient and the kappa coefficient. The first one is agreement coefficient. It is an estimate of the proportion of students who have been consistently classified as masters and non-master on two administrations of a CRT. To apply this approach, the test should be administered twice, such that enough time has been allowed between administrations for the students to forget the test, but not so much time that they have learned any substantial amount, using a predetermined cut point. The students are then classified on the basis of their scores into the master or non-master groups on each test administration. The cut points are usually determined by the purpose of the test. On an achievement test, or for instance, a passing score might be considered 60% or higher. If this achievement tests were administered twice near the end of the term of instruction, the tester will need to tally the number of students who passed or masters and those who failed or non-masters on the two administrations. And the second one is kappa coefficient. The kappa coefficient is an estimate of the classification agreement that occur beyond what would be expected by chain alone and can be interpreted as a percentage of that agreement. Since kappa represent the percentage of classification agreement beyond chain, it is usually lower than the agreement coefficient. Like the agreement coefficient, it has an upper limit of 1.000, but unlike the agreement coefficient with its chain lower limit, the kappa coefficient has the more failure lower limit of 0.00. And the second is square error loss agreement approaches. Threshold loss agreement coefficients focus on the degree to which classifications in clear-cut categories, or master or non-master, are consistent. Square error loss agreement strategies also do this, but they do so with sensitivity to the degrees of mastery and non-mastery along the score continuum. Thus, scored error loss agreement approach attempt to account for the distance that students are from the cut point, that is the degree of mastery and non-mastery, rather than just the dichotomous categorizations.
Thank you so much for the explanation, Yudha. Here I would like to explain about application of reliability in language learning setting. It is about knowing the way how to check whether the data from quantitative research are reliable or not by using SPSS. For example, there are data that were gained from questionnaire about 20 student perception in the implementation of distance learning towards their speaking skills. There are 7 question items which can be answered same with the previous one when we check the validity of the items. It use like 1 to 5 Likert scale. And yeah, our task here is to know about the validity of the questionnaire. In this occasion, we use alpha converge. Therefore, if the reliability statistic converge alpha of the result is more than 0.6, it shows that the items are reliable. Yeah, we directly placed our data in the SPSS in form of numbers like this. Yeah, there are 7 items and 20 students. And here is the variable view. And after that, we have to click the tools, which is analyze and then scale and then reliability analysis. And we have to include the item into the items tables right here. And then the model is alpha because we use converge alpha. And for the status, it is when it is located in the items, and then we have to choose scale if items deleted from the statistic tools. And then for the ANOVA tables, we use none. And then we will gain the result after we click continue, which shows that the reliability of the questionnaire is 0.850. It shows that it is more than 0.6, so it is reliable. And also the 7 items are also more than 0.6, so the questionnaires are reliable. And for the example of validity and reliability as a means to validate data in quantitative research. Yeah, in this example, the reliability, the instrument reliability and validity is measured by converge alpha. The instrument measured about students' content, design, unity, accuracy, and punctuation from their written works. And yeah, some of the factors are shows that it is more than 0.6, and only the accuracy which shows that it is under the 0.6. It shows that it is not reliable. And the second example is instrument validation. which is used to make sure the validity and reliability of the writing test. It used to measure the reliability coefficient. And yeah, it used Pearson correlation, and it shows that it is more than 0.6, which is it is 0.9, and for the pretest and for the post-test is 0.9 as well. And the last one is the validity of the instruments is validated by using converge alpha. It used to know the validity of the post-test and pre-test for the teacher and student in this article. And yeah, here are some references of our material that we have presented. Yeah, that was all from us. If you find some mistakes throughout our performance, we would be more than glad if you forgive us for that. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.